Good evening and welcome to the Henry Schein Dental Academy webinar series. My name is Adam and I'll be your moderator. Tonight we're joined by Dr. Wally Renne as he discusses full digital workflows for common to complex cases. At any point during the webinar, if you have a question, please type it into the Q&A section of your control panel and we'll get back to you via email within 2 business days. Henry Schein is not offering CE credit for viewing or attending this presentation, live or on demand, and this webinar is sponsored by Planmeca. Dr. Renne, welcome.
Hey everybody, Wally Renne here, and I'm really excited to talk to you about chairside milling in a way that hasn't really been imagined before. Talking about taking control of your productivity in your office and outsourcing a lot less of what you do. When I think about digital dentistry, I understand that it could be super overwhelming with all the various different technologies on the market, and then piecemealing different scanners with mills, with ovens, and not realizing that each one has their own little eccentricities, and to get them to all work together sometimes could be quite a daunting task. And this is kind of why when you're thinking about having a solution for your office, you really want to partner with a manufacturer that's pieced it all together for you, so that you're not playing IT all day long and getting bogged down. That's another reason why we developed the Mod Institute. The Mod Institute is a advanced CE training center for digital dentistry to try to help individuals who are early on in their digital journey to come learn in a very unintimidating environment on how to do these incredible things that we could do with technology today. Whether it's milling a denture for your patient, or milling a hybrid prosthetic, or even just 3D printing a surgical guide. All these things are kind of covered at the Mod Institute, and what we're going to give you today is just a little taste of the types of things that you could do in your office with very little stress, because manufacturers like Planmeca have figured out this workflow for you so that you could just kind of do what you do best, which is take care of your patients. So in talking about Planmeca's technology and discussing with you the digital workflows, the first thing that you do whenever you want to do a digital workflow is you pick up a scanner. So you need a high quality intraoral scanner, preferentially one that's not going to break the bank, because these items are, what would I say? These items are kind of becoming to the point where every 3 years or so there's a new scanner on the market. So you don't want to spend $70,000 on a scanner and then have a new one come out. So Planmeca is really good about keeping the scanner price down, making it to where it gets updates with software that transform the scanner into an even better scanner, without having to buy new hardware. So they're very careful about releasing a new scanner every year, like some manufacturers do, and they've also managed to keep the cost extremely low with no hidden fees. A lot of manufacturers will nickel and dime you on these scanners, where you buy it and then monthly fees to store things in the cloud. There's monthly maintenance fees. If you don't pay the fees, you can't turn on the scanner. It's crazy. Planmeca has taken a different approach. They want the scanner to be affordable, easy to use, and accurate. And I think they've done that with the Emerald S, and especially if you take a glimpse behind the curtain and see all the work they've done with artificial intelligence algorithms and scanner accuracy, you'll be impressed. They just really don't talk about it much. But take this, for example. One of the hardest things to scan ever is a patient that has brackets and a wire, arch wire. This version of the software is able to handle this so easily. Look at this. This is sailing across this arch wire. This is real time, not sped up, real world situation on a patient who has a giant buccal fat pad, and a difficult case to scan with any scanner on the market today, I would say. And what you're going to see at the end result with all the artificial intelligence algorithms that have been built into this software is a beautiful, really nicely constructed 3D model that renders the finest detail of this case to such a point where you could even virtually debond this case and make a retainer before you ever physically debond the patient, because you could do this all on software and have a 3D printed model with a retainer fabricated before you finalize the case and debond the case, I mean. So like lots of really cool things that you could do with digital dentistry, including scanning soft tissue now. The Emerald S is a phenomenal intraoral scanner that doesn't break the bank. It is constantly being innovated with new software updates that really advance the scanner beyond what it was in the last update. And that's really what you want. You want a company that is constantly innovating. And Planmeca does it, but they just don't do it for show. They're not going to go on social media and make a big buzz. They just quietly update it. You turn on your scanner, and the next thing you know, like you have a totally updated scanner. And that's what I love about them as a company. They're always innovating. So look at this model. This is a gorgeous model. If you only knew 3 years ago, scanners really couldn't do this. And take a look at the quality of the rendering of the orthodontic wire, the brackets, the metallic brackets, the hard and soft tissues of this case. And so I have to applaud them for making such a phenomenal scanner and always quietly updating it to be better. And they've done that with accuracy as well. Scanner accuracy is not really based off of hardware anymore. It's based off of software. And we could see this with some studies that we've published where we've evaluated scanners and then evaluated them again, same hardware, but different software a year later. And what we see is software updates lead to phenomenal advancements in accuracy, trueness, and precision. Take the Emerald S with 621 software. We're just as accurate as a Trios 4 on a prime scan. There's no statistical differences or clinical differences between those numbers. That's remarkable considering that the cost of this scanner is a lot less than those other manufacturers. All phenomenal scanners, by the way. But we could see the evolution of what's occurring in the market with scanner accuracy as we advance, not only with hardware, but more importantly these days, software. Most recently, we evaluated with a team of prosthodontists and clinicians the scanner accuracy of the new scanners in the market, like the Medit i700, the PrimeScan, Trios 4, against the Emerald S. And what we found is really remarkable. The scanners are all really good, and there's very little differences between the scanners. As it relates to hard and soft tissues, they're all kind of within the ballpark. So it's really hard to, at least these days, to pick a scanner based off of accuracy alone. So it's kind of based off of the company, the platform, the software, and the advancements to the software that you see being a value for your practice. Scanners can also do soft tissue these days. They could do it quite well. It is difficult, though, I'm not going to lie, to do a final impression for a denture with a scanner because you can't border mold, the tissue is movable, and you're going to get some inaccuracies, but more importantly, it's going to be difficult to determine that border where you want your denture flange to meet because you're not doing your border molding and things like that. And incidentally, if you compare this to a physical impression, the physical impression will compress the tissue anywhere from 150 to 300 microns, where a digital impression actually doesn't compress the tissue at all. It actually underestimates the tissue a little bit, so your denture will be just a little bit more loose if you think about it, because you're not compressing that tissue. But this could be easily accommodated for in CAM software when you're manufacturing your denture digitally. Another really cool thing with the Emerald S, or really all scanners these days, is the ability to do replica dentures or copy dentures or scan a denture out of the mouth. And I'm going to be the first to admit that almost every scanner struggles with this. This is hard, especially dentures with glassy, smooth, flat palatal vaults. But nevertheless, it can be done. This is also another way to do a dual scan technique for your hybrid prosthetics, where you could put your beads, your radiographic markers on this denture and scan it in your hand. And what's cool is you could then put it in the mouth and scan the opposing and the bite and have all that information and then merge that with the CBCT of that denture for your full arch planning. And this is pretty routine. You could also do a wash of the denture and refit that denture and then scan that in. So these are all remarkable things that we could do now with digital technology. And so you could easily mill a copy denture just by washing and copying. In addition to that, we also are able to do advanced implant workflows where, we don't need a $40,000 pick system. The only people really advocating those are pretty much people who really want the predictability of not learning how to scan. They just want to not do a scan pattern and then use a photogrammetry device to accommodate for the inaccuracies. But with just a tiny bit of training and understanding scan pattern, what you're able to do is you're able to scan these complicated hybrid prosthetics to 50 to 100 micron cross arch inaccuracies routinely, which we know will lead to passive fits, according to the study by Jockstad. So we're able to get these remarkable and gorgeous all-on-X scans pretty routinely. And these are the worst scan bodies on the market, these parallel cylinders for many scanners. So even a terrible scan body with no fiducial markers is able to be done completely. Another thing that we have to understand is that we are not scanning in isolation of a human being. We are scanning people, and people do appreciate that. People don't really love coming to the dentist. They fear us for a number of reasons, and one of the main reasons that they fear us is definitely this impression, this concept of this rubber being jammed in their mouth for an impression. And no impressions obviously means no gagging. I've never had a patient gag on an intraoral scanner. Rubber coming into your mouth is much more intimidating than a camera. In fact, oftentimes I don't even tell them what I'm doing, and the next thing they know, they're looking at the screen and their mouth is on the screen in 3D. So in general, and this applies to all scanners on the market, why would you want to do intraoral scanning? And to me, it's the patient experience. We don't want patients to have a bad experience, and we know that patients really hate the injection, and they also really hate the impression. And this has been proven with numerous publications. This is a really good study that said basically evaluated impressions versus digital impressions and found that patients unanimously preferred the digital impression technique. Haddadi did an amazing study in 2018 that did this Likert scale of discomfort, where 100 would be like incredibly painful, like giving birth, I would imagine, or something like that, the most unimaginable pain. And then 1 would be pain-free, essentially. And what they found from this study is that intraoral scanning was a 6 on that scale of 1 to 100 with patient discomfort, where physical conventional impressions were a 73, and that's extremely discomfortable on that Likert scale. And so immediately, if you could offer this service for your patients, I don't understand why you wouldn't. That's also why intraoral scanning is the fastest growing technology in dentistry right now. Most people realize this. Also, time-wise, intraoral scanners save a good bit of time, especially on more complicated cases like those hybrid cases, those all-on-X cases, because we're able to cross-mount digitally and say stitch a temporary to a scan body scan to a denture scan and have all those meshes mesh in the proper occlusion. Whereas if you're doing this with stone, you have to take multiple different bites and then cross-mount those. And that's where you could really start to save some time with digital impressions. And here we go. Here's the Emerald S. Look at how fast this baby is. It's just incredible to see that thing fly across the arch. And I'm going to specifically go over and, how do you do something like this complicated case with intraoral scanning? It's actually quite easy. I'm going to show you. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to scan your provisional, which is hopefully in proper occlusion. The patient's approved the aesthetics and the phonetics, and you've worked out everything that you want to in this provisional prosthetic that is mostly likely a milled PMMA. And we will go over how to mill these types of things in a little bit on the 50S mill. But before we do that, obviously you need to be confident in the scanner, and that's what the purpose of this first part of this lecture is. So here we are scanning this hybrid prosthetic, and this is sped up, guys, but the real countdown timer is on the magnified bottom left-hand corner there. So we're about 1:20 right now. And what's cool, normally you would do this, you would take an alginate of this and a bite reg, a lower and a bite reg, but then how would the lab be able to pin that to the scan of the soft tissue, to the physical impression of the soft tissue, the physical impression of the scan bodies or implant impression posts? Well, digitally, it's real easy. So what we're able to do now is we are going to scan the lower, and we mark the patient with articulating paper so that the laboratory or yourself has the ability to verify the mesh of the vertical based off the location of those points on the articulating paper to the digital articulation. Because the scans are in full color, you're able to cross-reference that pretty easily these days. So now here we are rendering that lower model, which is, in this particular case, is going to be restored at a later date. But here we are now capturing the bite at the proper vertical dimension here with this prosthetic. And you can see the arches are going to ghost in at that maximum intercuspal position here. And you could do a CR bite. You could do numerous different types of bites with digital technology as well. So now what's really cool is now we're going to scan the soft tissue multi-unit abutments. And we're doing this in a very creative way. We're going to just erase the prosthetic that we just scanned that is articulated to the lower jaw at the proper vertical. And we're going to stitch in now our multi-unit caps with the Emerald S here. So you can see here. And that is going to be perfectly aligned to the lower arch. So there's no additional bite registration that needs to be made. So now in here you could see that stitching in, and that is, like I said, with the magic of technology, that's all going to be perfectly aligned to the lower jaw based off of that original scan that we did with the provisional hybrid prosthetic in place at the proper vertical. And that's really cool. And in addition to this, now we're able to copy this over to another catalog and erase those multi-unit caps and screw in our scan bodies. So here we are now screwing in our scan bodies, and once again, this scan is going to be aligned to the original vertical dimension of the provisional prosthetic that we made. So, and this is also the way you creatively do full mouth reconstructions, where you scan your provisionals at the proper vertical, and then you scan your teeth, and there's actually no need for a separate bite if everything is aligned properly. So this is kind of a good way to do these types of cases. And so this is what the lab would see. They would have all these files all at the proper vertical together. Okay, so now that you maybe have some faith in Planmeca's scanner, and first I want to preface this by saying, scanners are not something you just buy and fire up, and with no training you just start scanning hybrid prosthetics and dentures. It's just not how life works in general. You do need a little bit of training to run these things, and I think with just a tiny bit of training, and Planmeca definitely does some phenomenal training, both in Chicago at their training facility there, which is state of the art. It's probably one of the most beautiful training facilities that I've ever been to. And they also have partnered with various different third-party trainers to be able to train your team. So the Planmeca FIT Plus system is a unique system. It's designed for the dentists who want to do more in office and not be tied down to closed workflows. It's an open system where it can mill any STL from anywhere. So there's hundreds of materials available, including super phenomenal occlusal guard materials that you can mill that are actually thermoplastics. There's denture materials, zirconia, probably 1,000 different types of zirconias, 3Y, 4Y, 5Ys. It's crazy. It's a industrial lab mill designed for the dentist. And so that's what makes it kind of really unique. It's 5-axis, so it can mill any broad range of tooth preparation styles. I mostly use it for zirconia. Okay, that's kind of what I've been using it for, because with zirconia on this machine, it's kind of perfectly designed for it. It's a dry mill or a wet mill, and so that means that you're able to do glass ceramics like Emax or zirconia fast, because zirconia likes to be dry milled. But the economics of a puck are quite profound, where if you're block milling, blocks are not efficient. They're expensive. Pucks, I could load 20 restorations in that puck and let it mill overnight, come in the morning and have 20 zirconia units ready to go for about $5 a unit. They've partnered with a software. It's basically full-blown exocad, and they call it PlanCAD Premium, and it is custom tailored for their mill with their CAM outputs and designed to work with the Emerald S scanner, where everything's all kind of fully integrated with wizard workflows. So it's a phenomenal software. But what's also cool, if you're intimidated by this, there's hundreds of CEs that you could take on how to design with this software. In addition to that, you could do, a lot of people are doing partnerships with design centers where the dentist doesn't design anything, and they just, for $5, you could get a bite guard design. For $2, you could get a crown design. For $20, you could get a hybrid designed or a denture. And they literally just send you the STL file for you to mill in your puck mill. So like, even if you're scared about the design side, you could take complete control of the manufacturing side by partnering with any one of the 300 design services in the United States that will design a beautiful thing for you to manufacture in-house. And so this puck mill is really cool. I myself like to do the design myself, and I enjoy it, and I'm profitable doing it. So, but that's just me. You might want to farm out that design. Take this case, for example. This is just your standard PFM with fractured porcelain. And there's something going on underneath this restoration. It's not quite right. So we're zipping this thing off. And this is what I see underneath after I take out the old core buildup, retreat the endo. Got to do my own. It's just a mess under there. It looks like it was just the tooth was just destroyed previously. And so I do my new core buildup, scan it in. So that was the final impression. All I need is those 3 teeth, really. I'm able to change the brightness. And then we're going to get the bite. All right, so the whole entire final impression took under a minute between the upper, lower, and the bite. And now what we're going to do is we have a few options. at this stage. We could mark our margin here in this software, or we could bring it to PlanCAD Premium and mark our margin, which is what I usually do. So here we are in PlanCAD Premium with the design of the restoration. You can see that it gives you super nice anatomy. I love this software. And here it is right out of the mill, milled in ultra fine mode here, where we are getting a lot of detail. This type of restoration took about 18 minutes to mill. And then this is Zircad Prime, which is just a beautiful, super strong zirconia by Ivoclar. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven and sinter it down. This is the type of material you could do super long span bridges and full arches off of, because it's above 1,000 megapascals of flexural strength, but not quite as ugly as your normal 3Y zirconia, because it does have some layered effect where they go from kind of this 3Y to 4Y to 5Y at the very incisal edge. But you're able to control that based off of where you position it in CAM software. Like if you want all 3Y, you could position it lower, and like I did in this case, because I wanted strength. If you wanted more aesthetics, you could position it to where the restoration is more towards the top of the puck, and that's going to be more your 5Y. This is all I stock for my zirconia. It's a very versatile zirconia. I do both anteriors and posteriors with this material. And here we are, basically with it right out of the mill. And you could see it's got some really cool detail. I cut the sprue off, and now what I'm going to do is go ahead and fire this bad boy in my sintering oven. I used the S2 oven by Ivoclar. Because I do a lot of full arches as well, that oven's very versatile. You could use the CS6 oven and sinter it in really fast, or you could go slow. Depends on what you want. You're in complete control. But here you can see the final restoration characterized and delivered into the mouth. Super pretty. Looks like a real tooth versus that original PFM that looked like a marble. And because the material is so strong, I'm doing these long span type bridges all day long and predictably. So I used to have all scanned with the Emerald S, by the way. I used to have, if I sent this off to the lab, I find myself getting stuff back I'm not happy with. And by bringing the milling in-house, because I'm able to control everything myself, I have no remakes. And what do I mean by that? It's not that labs do bad work. It's just that it's hard to be predictable in a lab, in my opinion, on some of these labs, because you just never know who's doing your work, or they hire somebody new and the person's never done a design before, or they've never milled before. And, it's difficult to get that predictability where I've never been more predictable than when I've brought all my manufacturing in-house for most of my simple stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like to partner with a really high-end lab like Absolute Dental Services when I want to do my beautiful high-end anteriors and stuff like that. But for the most part, I'm milling everything in-house. So here we are right out of the sintering oven, and then here we are characterized. And you could see that we're just using Mio in this case on the Zircad Prime. I do like Mio from Jensen a lot. It's a really pretty stain and glaze. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to learn how to do this stuff, guys. It's really not hard at all. There's so many courses you could take to hold your hand. But where I really like the power of having a full-blown laboratory at my fingertips is the way that I'm able to treat my patients with these high-end, bigger cases as well. And like I said, you could collaborate with laboratories and have them do the design and you mill, or you could even, there's a lot of labs that are just excited to be a part of the process with you. This is not how we take down dental laboratories. I love my lab. I love my lab technicians. This is how we take control of the stuff we want to take control of and outsource the stuff that we want to outsource, and anything in between. But what I like about the software is I'm able to take a guy like this, and such a sweet man, who recently actually had this bridge done. This bridge is less than 5 years old, guys. And the patient's in tears because they had this work done, and the original dentist would not replace it for him. and it fractured a little bit of the porcelain, delaminated there on that site number 7, and the guy patched it and wouldn't replace this bridge. And by the way, guys, this is the bite in centric relation. That's the way the guy closes. He has a ton of issues going on. Posterior interferences causing a pseudoclass, kind of pseudo end on. He wants to go forward there, but he can't because he's banging into his restorations. It's just an occlusal nightmare, right? But the guy's in tears. He doesn't have the finances to do a full mouth reconstruction. He just wants to be able to smile. But what we're able to do by bringing stuff like this in house is keep costs way down. Like I said, I'm at $5 a unit here. And even if you include my time on the design, I personally am designing this case in under 30 minutes. And I just love it. So for me, it's been a joy. But if you didn't even want to do this design, you partner with a fantastic design service like Joshua Jackson or some other amazing design team. They could fire these to you for you to mill and characterize, or you could design and send to them, whatever. But by keeping all these workflows in-house, look what I was able to do for this guy, this poor guy, who I love as a patient. And, partnered also with True Buttman. We placed some implants on him. We got rid of his posterior interferences. We did the smile design. We milled the zirconia prosthesis out of the Zircad Prime, which I have 100% faith will never break on this guy. I've done stuff with this material that I've never would have dreamed that I could do with a zirconia material that looks halfway decent. So it's amazing. Okay, so here we go. On to another case. We have, this patient, sweet patient, but look at the way that he presented here. Poor guy. All sorts of issues here with reverse smile lines and what do we do? Well, the first thing that you do is you take a complete upper and lower digital impression, and then you throw them into PlanCAD Premium and do a smile design. And this whole smile design takes about 30 minutes. And then you present it to the patient and you sell the case to the patient using digital dentistry with digital smile designs. There's no more like taking an alginate and showing a patient a wax model and saying, here's your $30,000 case. It's like test driving a car. And only being able to look at it and not really being able to see it in your face, or in the way of the car is not actually be able to sit in the driver's seat. Well, now with digital dentistry, we're able to let the patient see the teeth in their face. And there's multiple ways to get those to look more realistic, but I actually don't I like to make them look like this because it just sells cases and for me. So we begin with the end in mind, and we're able to show patients what we're going to achieve for them. And they trust us because they see that we're modern. They see that we're doing cool stuff. We're not just snapping an alginate and firing it off to a lab and saying, hey, wax this case up. We're able to, put it into a face scan. We're able to put it into a photo. We're able to show the patient that we actually care and that we've looked at their case at the highest level possible. And so here we have the preparations. And now we're using the 50S mill to wet mill the glass ceramic, the Emax. I do love Emax. And here we are. And, now we're off actually doing the bottom as we speak. So super happy patient. I also find that being able to mill myself gets me out of some jams, some trouble scenarios. So this is a patient that I inherited from a colleague who left the practice. So the colleague who left the practice left me with this kind of nightmare where they extracted some teeth, they did some grafting, and this is the first time I saw the patient. Right here, implant placed, integrated. Patient's frustrated. They had multiple failed tissue grafts there and is done with grafting. By the time the patient gets to me, they're mad as a hornet and they just want their teeth and they want it to look halfway decent. So what I would normally do is, say, sorry, you're going back through grafting. We need to build some soft tissue height there. But the patient was just furious. So what do? It's actually quite a fun case. And the outcome is a compromise, but it is what it is. So we take a digital impression using the Emerald S. And guys, the scanner, the scanner these days is just a scanner. They're there is no perfect scanner on the market, in my opinion. So now we're screwing in our scan body. Actually, this scan body is a true abutment scan body. I do like partnering with good companies like True Abutment. They are phenomenal. If you don't know who they are, you should look them up. They are the single best partner that I have as it relates to my implant workflow. I do everything with them. They are a custom abutment manufacturer out of California, and they make things easy for you when you do digital dentistry. They work with you where you are, so they could design the custom abutment and send you the STL file for you to mill in office for $5. And they could do a number of different workflows with you and meet you where you are in your digital journey. Okay, so now we have the upper, the lower, and the bite, and we're doing bilateral bites here to get a more accurate occlusion for this particular patient. And we could see that we have really good occlusion. And what we're going to do is we're going to fire this off to PlanCAD Premium, and we're going to go ahead and throw it into Smile Design software, merge the intraoral scan with the face scan, go ahead and do some analysis of the spacing, virtually mock the case up, and merge the scan body. And in this case, I'm going to do a cantilever restoration there with some soft tissue modifications. And of course, post milling, we're going to get rid of any concavities on that soft tissue area to make them cleansable. You could do it pre-milling or post-milling. It takes 1 second with the handpiece. You could do it digitally as well. There's a lot that you could do, and then we're going to characterize that tissue pink with some Mio stain and glaze, which makes any dentist look like a hero because it's so beautiful. Mio, for those of you who don't know, is by Jensen. It's a great stain and glaze material. Get the virtual articulation correct with dynamic articulation as well, and see how it looks in the smile, in the face, and the whole 9 yards. And so here's our final design, and we're going to mill this bad boy out of Zircad Prime. There's the final restoration with no concavities, guys. Here's the puck with the screw retained prosthetic on a tie base, and the other individual units. You gotta love the 5-axis mill. It's able to mill anything. It mills these screw channels. It mills. Look at the fit here. So this is the digital design and my final characterized restoration with Mio. And listen, I'm not saying that this case turned out perfect. There's a lot that we could have done differently, but thank goodness for smile lines, low smile lines, because this is how the patient kind of left. Super happy. Similarly, we could mill occlusal appliances. There's some really phenomenal occlusal appliances out there, material to mill. And you could be as sophisticated or as fast as you want with these. A lot of people I know just farm these out to design services and spend $5 and get the occlusal appliance design back and mill them. I actually like to do the design, and depending on the symptoms of the patient, I might even go this way and measure the custom condylar inclination for that particular patient. This is an ultra low dose CBCT scan of this patient, and I'm measuring the condylar inclination, which I'm going to then input into PlanCAD Premium here and virtually mount this case on the articulator using Bergstrom's point, and then also typing in the custom condylar inclination of the patient. And I'm going to make a permissive Michigan type splint full arch appliance for this patient, the symptomatic patient here. And I've had great success doing this. And you don't have to do this though. This is, as much as I hate to say it, this is showing you like what's possible, but you could go as simple as you want. Don't let my complexities discourage you from doing the dentistry you want to do. I'm not even saying that this is necessary at all. In fact, it's just an upper and lower scan, and fire it in here and do a splint. It's easy. But here I'm showing you that now I'm typing in the custom condylar inclination. I've mounted that model based off of the patient's proper position of the terminal hinge axis on this virtual dynamic articulator. And then we're going to open the pin on the articulator here, and it's going to be at the proper orientation, go through the dynamic articulation, and then we're going to design this bite splint very fast and very easily. And here we could see I'm able to check my clearance. This particular patient has severe second molar interferences, and so I'm a big believer. I don't know your occlusal philosophy, and that's not something I want to get into here, but I'm a big believer in mutually protected occlusion with anterior guidance, posterior disclusion, and that's just me. I'm more of the Dawson Pankey type philosophy, but I'm not opposed to being open-minded and learning anything. And I'm never the type of person to say what you're doing is not right, because I do believe that multiple different ways can be right. And I like to follow the evidence, and the evidence supports multiple different outcomes as it relates to occlusion. But here we are milling bite occlusal guard. These could be milled out of various different types of materials. They could be thermoformed afterwards as well. So you mill it and then you heat it, and then you could get that final like micron fit, because it only heats ever so slightly. PlanCAD Premium also lets you print guards as well. It's open, so you don't have to just sit there and mill. You could print. It's not something that like you're stuck, and that's why I like Planmeca. Like they want you to be open and do open workflows. They're okay with that. And of course, surgical guides are usually not milled. They're usually printed. And for those of you guys who know, Planmeca has the best surgical guide software, I think, on the planet. It's so good for the dentist and the patient. We know if we go guided, we have less pain. We have increased efficiencies. So let me show you just a case in PlanCAD Premium here, where we have a patient that we scanned, and we're going to go ahead and wax them up in PlanCAD Premium. We're going to do a virtual digital mock-up. What's really cool is once we do this, we could 3D print this model and transfer it to the patient's mouth, and show them kind of what they would possibly be able to achieve if they went through with the treatment plan that we set forth. So here's the virtual wax up. Very fast and easy to do. And here we're overlaying Romex's smile design to this virtual wax up and checking our proportions and making sure that we're within the ballpark of the two-dimensional plan. And we're ready to go to 3D print this model. And we 3D print the model and do a putty wash of the model. And we squirt bisacryl. You could 3D print the actual teeth, but most people just print the model, squirt bisacryl in the model if it's added wax up, and transfer it to the patient's mouth. And this is what I like to do to, I hate to say sell treatment plan. It's not selling treatment plan. It's letting the patient see for themselves what might be possible with the dentistry that you want to do. You don't sell anything. You just show them. And typically that's going to go a long way for your case acceptance rate. So that is printers are remarkably fast these days. And this particular case can be done in a single visit, where you could print the model in under 20 minutes and then go ahead and transfer to the patient's mouth that same day. And that's part of the advantages of having the design software in your office versus farming everything out, because you're able to do that fast turnaround time. So here we see the accuracy of the whole kind of thing: the scan, the design, the print, and transferring this to the patient's mouth. And take a look at this. This is going to be life-changing for this patient. And I always like to video them. In this case, we're videoing using Solana Vision light from Planmeca that actually has a camera in it. So your overhead light has two cameras. You can do video and stills, 4K. And you can get them speaking, you can get them going through phonetics, you get their initial reaction. So cool. And in this particular patient, we also went ahead and placed some Urus implants, which Urus is my favorite implant on the market right now by True Abutment. Placed them all guided, of course. And this is from Planmeca's Romex's surgical guide software. We're even doing some cool stuff where we're 3D printing irrigation channels to try to take care of that thermal issues that we see with traditional guides, where you could accidentally heat up the bone and so doing this kind of internal irrigation is really cool and just a fun way to be innovative and do something different. Yeah, these custom irrigation channels, though, I'm not saying that you have to do them. There's just not enough evidence to say that it even really is going to be a game changer. You could mill or 3D print custom healers from PlanCAD Premium. Such a phenomenal software, and be able to do this surgery and do your implant and then screw in a custom healing abutment. How awesome is that? So that's what you get when you partner with manufacturers that are open. And you could 3D print or mill shell provisionals from PlanCAD Premium. One of the things I really like about milling and having options with the open software is digital dentures. You could mill your denture base, print your teeth. You could print your denture base and print your teeth. You could mill your denture base and mill your teeth. It's whatever you want to do. And I have actually multiple tiers of dentures that I do from, economy to premium. And the premium is milled. But printing is coming a long way as well. But the ability to mill denture bases and mill teeth out of multi-translucency PMMA, or even you could use carded teeth. The software lets you do anything that you want, and you could really transform patients' lives with, being able to offer these dentures. And like I said, I like to just, depending on the case, if I'm going to mill or print, and Planmeca gives you that option. They just are okay with you doing whatever works for you. These digital dentures are quite phenomenal. One thing that's easy with them is if you have an existing denture, you could grind out the old junk, reline it, and take a scan of it, and then you could 3D print or mill or whatever a copy denture. In this case, we did a combination of milling and printing, and you can see we're good to go there. So the last case that I kind of want to cover with you guys is this really cool implant case. And it kind of is combining all Planmeca's technology, because I think it's kind of cool to see the whole package. So this is how this guy presented to me. He's missing his 2 front teeth, literally. And let me show you the whole workflow, because I think it's going to really tie some things together for you. PlanCAD Premium and puck milling and having an open mill. So I sped this up, but we're because you've seen enough real-time speed scanning from me with the Emerald S. So we take a upper scan, we take a lower scan, and we take a bite. And like I said, it all starts with the digital impression, right? And that's why we went over the Emerald S scanner. So then what we're able to do with Planmeca is what I think is really cool is all-in-one software. You're able to pin that intraoral scan to the DICOM data set. This is an ultra-low-dose CBCT from a Planmeca Pro Max Mid. These CBCTs are just industrial grade CBCTs. We do 15 to 30 images a day, and these things are just phenomenal. So now Planmeca also has I think, the best implant planning software for general dentists. It's really designed for those onesies and twosies, and it's fast. And in this case, I'm planning Urus implants, which is my favorite implant from True Abutment. And I'm measuring the depth of the implants, getting my implants parallel, getting them positioned with my virtual wax up that I also pinned to the DICOM data set. And now what's really cool is Planmeca lets you plan the implants, plan the surgical guide, but then also attach scan bodies to the plan. That's kind of phenomenal because now I could take that into PlanCAD Premium, merge my scan bodies, and design these prosthetics before I ever place the implants, because I'm going to do they let you do a timed guide from Rumexis. I'm going to do engaging tie bases here pre-surgically. So this is what we get out of the mill. This is milled on the 50S mill, and look at the fit. This is just really cool. So we got the surgical guide and we got the milled provisionals. And so on the day of surgery, everything's done for me. I don't have to really worry. So I do my micro flaps. I'm not actually punching that tissue. I'm actually not using it as a punch. I'm using it as a demarcator for the most lingual border of the implant. And I'm going to do these tiny little flaps. Surgically, the surgery has become a lot less complicated. Normally I would do a big flap there and get some residual bone loss from that, but I'm doing these tiny little micro flaps to preserve the keratinized tissue, placing the implants, and then I'm going to take that keratinized tissue and de-epithelialize that and then fold it in for a roll graft. Here we can see that. And that is the provisional that was screwed right in the day of surgery. Isn't that amazing? I mean, so the sky's kind of the limit with these mills and with the scanner and the software. There's really nothing that you can't do. I love this workflow. I love this system, and I think that if you take some time and step back and decide what you want to do, you don't have to do everything. You don't have to have it all full on you. You could partner with your lab still. You could farm out the stuff you don't want to do. But then what you're able to do now is manufacture in office in a very predictable way to dramatically decrease cost. And it's just something that I think for me has been quite revolutionary. I'm able to help more patients and not have that just overhead of this giant lab bill bogging me down from helping people. And I think that's what I like the most about it. So anyway, thank you for your time. I hope that it wasn't too boring and that you can see the value in this type of technology and know that there's people here to help you on your journey. If you dive in and adopt this technology, you're not going to be abandoned. There's training centers, there's online content, and of course, Planmeca has some phenomenal training. So thank you for your time, and I want to thank Schein for giving me this opportunity to present this technology to you.
Thank you, Dr. Renne, for the great presentation. And of course, thanks to Planmeca for sponsoring tonight's webinar. As a thank you for attending, everyone will receive the recording via email sometime in the next week. If anyone has additional questions, please feel free to email us at webinars@henryschein.com. Or if you want to attend future Henry Schein webinars, visit henryscheindental.com/webinars for our upcoming schedule. Thanks everyone for attending. Have a great night.